Hey guys, Tom here. Part 2 of the winemaking here on the HomeCraft Chronicles. We've already set up the process, got the wine fermenting with the fruit bubbling away, and now we're going to talk about what happens next when you know when the wine's done fermenting, how to stabilize it, get it all cleared up, and ready for bottling. So stick around. So after about a week, the fruit has done its part, and I'm just straining it off into a strainer in a cleaned and sanitized container underneath, and I just press on it lightly to get any of the extra juice out. You don't really want to chop it up too much, but you can just press it gently. Okay, so you can see I lost a little bit of volume. I'm just going to fill this up with more juice to get that back to the 5-gallon mark, and then I'll transfer it back into this bucket and let it ferment another several weeks. So it has been several weeks that my wine has been fermenting, and now is the time that I want to stabilize it and get it ready for clearing and the next stage in the process. How do you know when your wine is done? There's a couple ways you know. First of all, your airlock will stop perking. There was very active fermentation. I mean, it bubbled way up into the airlock. There's wine that bubbled out all over the lid of this fermenter. So this was working pretty good, but it doesn't seem to be doing anything now. It's been several weeks, so I think I'm pretty much ready for the next step. The second way I know is I'm going to check the gravity of this. So I'm just going to take the lid off, and just as I open the lid, you can tell it smells fantastic. I'm going to put my hydrometer in, and I'm going to see the gravity. So according to this, I'm at about 1.022. So I have to do some math. There's a formula for figuring out the alcohol content of your wine. The formula is the starting gravity, and that is simply just the amount of sugar. Gravity means the amount of sugar that's in the product, less your final gravity, and right now my final gravity is 1.022. You take that difference and you multiply it by 131.25, and that will give you your alcohol by volume. So if you remember from before, my starting gravity was 1.112 minus what I have now is 1.022 equals 0.09 times 131.25 equals. I have a gravity of about 11.8, which is about 12%, which for wine is fine. I'm perfectly happy with that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stabilize the wine. I have my carboy here. I have my stabilizing chemicals, which is potassium sorbate, and Camden, which is potassium metabisulfate. Don't worry about all this stuff. I'm going to give you links for all this stuff and the formulas and the quantities and everything, not only in the description below, but also on the HomeCraft Facebook page. So if you're interested in this project, great. But for now, I just kind of want to give you the idea of the process of what's going on here. So this is my two stabilizing chemicals. I'm going to put them in. Whoa. And then I'm just going to start this siphon. This is just another product that homebrewers use to auto siphon for getting stuff from one to another. And I have it up on a rack here because, as you may or may not know, with siphons, you want your final thing to be lower than where you're siphoning from. And then one last thing I'm going to put in here is my wine findings. And this particular thing is called MacLeod. And what this is basically like kind of like a clay. You can also use something called bentonite. And what that does is it serves as a clarifier for the wine. What it'll do is it'll kind of attach to the solids in the wine and then clarify it. They'll all settle out to the bottom and you'll have a nice clear wine. Oh, another thing you may or may not have noticed, like this foam and stuff in here, and that's not soap. When I cleaned this out, I did clean this out very thoroughly, but all this is the residue from the sanitizer, and that's perfectly safe. You don't have to rinse it out or anything. It's perfectly fine, because when you're home brewing, sanitation and cleanliness is paramount to what you're doing. I just wanted to mention, I don't know if I had mentioned this before, but just in case, as I brew, I always just keep kind of like a going diary of what I'm doing, like the dates, you know, my recipe, the chemicals that I'm adding and whatnot. It's just a good idea, and that way for two reasons. One, so you just kind of keep track, especially if you have more than one thing brewing at a time, you can keep track of your different products. And secondly, if it turns out good or it doesn't turn out good, well, good, I don't know. You'll have a record and you'll know how to tweak it for next time. This particular one is something that, you know, I haven't done before with all the berries, so maybe it won't turn out as well. So I'll have to change things up for next time. But just, you know, a brewing journal or of some sort is a good idea, and I highly recommend you keep one. So I'm almost done, and then we'll get going to what's next. And all that's left in here is the leftover fruit, the sludge, the yeast that's fallen out of solution, and just a little bit of the liquid that didn't siphon out. So then I'm just going to put a sanitized stopper in here with a sanitized airlock, a little bit of sanitizing solution in there. And then I'm just going to tuck this away for a couple more weeks. Let it clear, stabilize. I actually may rack it again, move it from this container to another one, and then we'll be ready to bottle it. So I'll check with you back when it's ready. So now that we're at this stage, we're definitely in the home stretch of the process. All we have to do next is get it ready for bottling, storage, and enjoying. So stick around for part 3. And remember, take care of yourself and your home. I'll see you later.